Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, President Trump saying he thinks a Russia-Ukraine peace deal is near. And as the holiday approaches, the president is urging people across the nation to renew their faith this Thanksgiving. Mario Tsu at the White House. NATO today scrambling fighter jets near Romania's border with Ukraine, how the U.S. is responding to the increasing drone incursions. A lawsuit filed by families of Hamas victims accuses a cryptocurrency company of enabling terrorist activities. Arlene Richards has more on the case. China's Xi Jinping and Russia's Vladimir Putin reaffirm their support for the Venezuelan regime amid increasing tensions in the Caribbean. Luis Martinez brings us the latest in the region. President Trump speaks with Japan's prime minister after she vows to defend Taiwan. Plus, Tokyo prepares to deploy new missile units near the islands as Beijing warns Japan has crossed a red line. Jack Bradley with more on the escalating standoff. And amid a high-level Chinese Communist Party officials' visit overseas, a group of peaceful protesters were harassed and attacked. Several countries are spotlighting the CCP's human rights abuses. Melina Weisskopf reports.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here's Tiffany Meyer.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. President Trump saying the U.S. is very close to a Russia-Ukraine peace deal. This comes as Army Secretary Dan Driscoll meets with a Russian delegation, and Ukraine tentatively agrees to a revised peace deal after weekend talks in Geneva. And President Trump ushers in the holidays at the White House, declaring that Thanksgiving is a chance for Americans to renew their faith in God. We now go live to NTD's Washington correspondent Mario Tsu live at the North Lawn. Mari, good evening.
Tiff, good evening. Yes, President Trump today is saying that his team has made, quote, tremendous progress in securing peace between Russia and Ukraine. He says that a peace plan has been fine-tuned with only a few disagreements remaining. The president is also directing a U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow while U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll meets with the Ukrainians. Take a look.
So I think we're getting very close to a deal. We'll find out. I thought that one would have been gone quicker.
President Trump adds that he looks forward to meeting with Zelensky and Putin soon, but only when the deal is finalized.
I have watched as the president and his team have worked around the clock overnight with both sides on endless phone calls, endless meetings to try to bring this war to a close.
While Democrats criticize the U.S. peace plan for favoring Russia,
I think it would go down, frankly, as a historically bad deal. But the whole idea that this was drafted without Ukrainian input, and my fear is the person who's watching this as close as Vladimir Putin is President Xi in China, because if we throw in the towel on Ukraine, I think that gives, frankly, more fuel to the fire in terms of Xi taking on Taiwan.
The White House pushes back, saying that the administration has spoken extensively and equally with both sides.
It's coming from people who have no idea what they're talking about, or people who are pushing their own agenda, or maybe people who don't want to see this war come to an end. I don't know. Maybe they're profiting off of it.
Vice President Vance accuses the political class of being obsessed with keeping the war going, rather than tackling pressing domestic issues like affordability.
And this Thanksgiving, we're also making incredible strides to make America affordable again. It's a great time of the year, and our country is doing really well economically, like we've never done before.
President Trump hails his administration's economic agenda at an annual ceremony sparing 2 turkeys ahead of Thanksgiving.
The turkeys being pardoned today go by the names of Gobble and Waddle. I was going to call them Chuck and Nancy. But then I realized I wouldn't be pardoning them. I would never pardon those 2 people.
And touts the prices of this year's Thanksgiving meals amid a refocus on affordability before the 2026 midterms.
Well, according to the USDA, the price of Thanksgiving turkey is down 33% from its Biden-era highs. Potatoes are down 13%. Ham is down 15%. Compared to last Thanksgiving.
The president also urges Americans to spend their holiday renewing their faith.
I hope all Americans will have the chance to enjoy the fellowship of family and friends and renew our faith in God's providence. We have more people praying. The churches are coming back, but religion is coming back to America.
And President Trump is now jetting off for Florida. You may be able to hear the sounds of Marine One on the South Lawn behind me there. The president's expected to spend his Thanksgiving week at Mar-a-Lago with his family, a holiday tradition for the Trumps. Tiff, back to you.
All right, Mari, thanks for those updates. NATO today scrambling fighter jets near Romania's border with Ukraine. They were responding to the deepest ever drone incursion into Romania. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar has the details.
Romanian and German NATO fighter jets were scrambled in what Bucharest called a Russian provocation. Romania initially scrambled 2 Eurofighters, which are part of German air policing missions in Romania. They tracked a drone in the southeast of the country before it re-entered Ukraine. The army later scrambled 2 Romanian fighter jets after radar showed a second airspace violation. Romania calls it the latest Russian attempt to provoke Bucharest.
We have a new incursion by a Russian drone, a new provocation by Russia against Romania, a drone that the Romanian army and the German pilots tried to shoot down.
U.S. troops are visiting a Romanian air base on Tuesday. The commander of the U.S. Army in Europe and Africa says a new capability to shoot down drones will be deployed to Romania.
We have tested it, and it is in the final stages of being employed. Romanian soldiers and other alliance soldiers have been trained on this capability.
He added that the system will be employed very soon. Meanwhile, the fighting in Ukraine continues. Kiev officials say Russian strikes killed 6 civilians in Ukraine's capital city on Tuesday. According to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Russia launched 22 missiles and 460 drones overnight. The strikes knocked out water, electricity and heat in parts of Kiev.
I would like us to finally get some help, some protection. We can't cope with this on our own. It's very sad. It's very sad that everyone is just watching.
The attack comes amid fast developing peace talks between Russia, Ukraine and the US, leading some to question whether Russia is truly seeking peace. Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
With President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky meeting as soon as Thanksgiving, will they make a breakthrough with a peace plan? Hear from retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis tonight on Capitol Report with Steve Lance at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The families of 300 U.S. citizens hurt or killed in the October 7th attack on Israel have sued cryptocurrency trading company Binance. NTD's Arlene Richards has more details.
Binance, a cryptocurrency trading company, has been accused of supporting terrorist activities. The accusations were laid out in a lawsuit filed in a North Dakota federal court on Monday. Families of 300 U.S. citizens hurt or killed in the October 7th terrorist attacks in Israel claim that Binance aided Hamas and other terrorist groups by transferring more than $1 billion among accounts they controlled. Specifically, the lawsuit states, for years, defendants knowingly, willfully, and systematically assisted Hamas, the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, Hezbollah, Palestine Islamic Jihad, and other terrorist groups to transfer and conceal the equivalent of hundreds of millions of U.S. dollars through the Binance platform in support of their terrorist activities. This assistance directly and materially contributed to the October 7th attacks and to subsequent terrorist attacks perpetrated by Hamas, Hezbollah, and Palestine Islamic Jihad. According to the lawsuit, these groups had been designated as foreign terrorist organizations for years before the October 7th attack. In recent years, they turned to cryptocurrencies as a means to move money more covertly. The lawsuit accuses Binance founders Changpeng Zhao and Guangying Chen of, quote, intentionally designing the company as a criminal enterprise to facilitate money laundering on a global scale, and states that Binance devised a scheme to evade U.S. oversight of its global money laundering enterprise. For example, it states that Binance created a fake spin-off company to be used exclusively for U.S. customers. This move allegedly allowed them to keep 5 million U.S. users while evading U.S. laws. A Binance spokesperson responded to the lawsuit in an email to NTD. It stated, quote, Binance has become aware of a complaint filed in the United States federal court. We cannot comment on any ongoing litigation. As a global crypto exchange, we comply fully with internationally recognized sanction laws. We remain steadfast in our commitment to working with regulators, law enforcement, and our users to protect the integrity of the global digital asset ecosystem. The families are seeking damages in an amount to be determined at trial, as well as attorney's fees and expenses. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
In the Middle East, a body said to be that of a deceased hostage is currently undergoing identification in Israel. Meanwhile, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which delivered aid directly to Gaza Strip residents while bypassing Hamas, has ended its mission in the territory. NTD's Jason Perry has the update.
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, or GHF, which delivered aid to residents in the Gaza Strip for 4 months, has ended its mission in the territory. The organization says it delivered 187 million meals to residents during that time. The GHF was a U.S.-backed initiative to deliver aid directly to Gaza Strip residents. The Hamas terrorist group has been accused of stealing humanitarian aid and selling it to support its terrorist operations. And those who assisted the GHF risked their lives to deliver aid directly to residents, bypassing Hamas. In a statement on Monday, the GHF said the Civil Military Coordination Center, which is overseeing the Gaza peace plan, will now use a piloted version of the GHF model for delivering aid to residents. And on Tuesday, groups of people were seen gathering water here in the northern Gaza Strip. A displaced woman explained the difficulties of trying to live in a tent.
Last night, it rained heavily, with strong winds and storms. My children have no clothes, and they're freezing. It rained so much that we got flooded both inside and outside the tent.
Meanwhile, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad recently handed over a body said to be that of a deceased hostage. And the body is currently being identified at Israel's National Institute of Forensic Medicine. If confirmed to be a deceased hostage's body, that will leave the bodies of 2 hostages remaining in the Gaza Strip. In another development, Israeli forces on Tuesday said they tracked down a terrorist in the West Bank who was accused of killing 2 Israeli soldiers in a car ramming attack last year. After reaching the residence, Israeli forces reported that the terrorist was armed and had barricaded himself inside. Israel then said they launched a precision strike to kill the terrorist. Israeli forces also report they recently struck a Hezbollah terrorist in Beirut, and they continue to strike Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon almost daily. Israel's foreign minister on Monday implied that the Hezbollah terrorist group in Lebanon is stronger than the Lebanese military.
As long as Hezbollah is the strongest military force in Lebanon, Israel has no security and Lebanon has no future.
And he added that as long as Hezbollah is not disarmed, Lebanon will remain under de facto Iranian occupation. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Tensions between the U.S. and the Venezuelan regime of Nicolas Maduro have shifted into the calculus of great power competition. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez breaks down the links between the Maduro regime and major U.S. adversaries.
According to Nicolas Maduro, an indicted narco-terrorist, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, the leaders of China and Russia, sent him letters expressing their solidarity and support amid rising tensions with the United States.
It is impressive how a movement of solidarity is rising everywhere in support of the victorious effort of the indestructible people of Venezuela in the face of these threats, psychological, political, diplomatic wars, whatever they do. However they do it, wherever they do it, they will not be able to defeat Venezuela. We are invincible.
The U.S. government has designated the Cartel of the Suns, the cartel that Nicolas Maduro is accused of leading, as a foreign terrorist organization.
Venezuela is run by a narco-terrorist ring that traffics drugs, weapons, human traffics as well, into the United States.
Top Venezuelan officials have been using the Venezuelan military and its installations to traffic drugs. The survival of the regime is the only thing keeping them from facing justice.
Hoy Marco Rubio, ustedes saben, sacó otro refrito.
Today Marco Rubio, pulled out another rehash about the Cartel of the Suns, that now it's a terrorist organization. Ridiculous. They're ridiculous. They repeat and repeat the story about drug trafficking, the drug trafficking story.
The regime is accused of killing over 8,000 civilians for resisting their authority. And unofficial results show that over 80% of Venezuelans voted against Maduro in last year's presidential elections.
So we know, we have information that maybe the top echelon of the military forces in Venezuela may be with Maduro, and they're going to flee with him. But the middle and lower ranks are with the opposition.
The Venezuelan regime has been economically propped up by China and Russia and has close ties with Iran and its proxy terrorist organizations Hamas and Hezbollah.
Venezuela has been the launching pad, the hub for our enemies. The Iranian, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Cubans, the Nicaraguans, people that hate the United States, and the only thing they want to do is do harm to us and to our young Americans.
It's important to note that the Venezuelan regime also provides oil at discounted prices to Nicaragua and Cuba, the only other two dictatorships in the region, and allowing for them to survive. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
President Trump spoke with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi following her comments about defending Taiwan if it were attacked by China. This comes as Japan prepares to deploy missile guidance systems to its westernmost island just 70 miles from Taiwan. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the details.
With tensions escalating between Japan and China, Japan's Prime Minister Takaichi held a call with President Trump. She said they discussed U.S.-China relations and cooperation following Trump's recent visit to Japan.
President Trump explained about the recent U.S.-China relations, including his talks with the Chinese leader last night. I believe that I was able to confirm the close cooperation between Japan and the United States.
What prompted the sudden spike in tensions between Japan and China was Prime Minister Takaichi publicly declaring that Japan would intervene if Taiwan were attacked, arguing that any conflict there would put Japan directly at risk. China reacted sharply, and a Chinese consul general in Osaka even threatened to cut the head off of the Japanese leader. And Beijing has been urging its residents not to travel to Japan. Chinese state-run media has also been calling for military strikes on Japan. Just prior to calling Takaichi, President Trump spoke with CCP leader Xi Jinping, and Xi reportedly told Trump of his desire to take over Taiwan, despite the CCP never having ruled over the self-governing democracy. Taiwan's government says that's not an option, and Beijing is trying to intimidate both Taipei and Tokyo.
China has repeatedly acted in line with its authoritarian expansionist nature, seeking to intimidate and exert pressure on Taiwan and neighboring countries, such as Japan, in the region.
Both Taiwan and Japan are committing to increase their defense spending. In the latest move, Japan's defense ministry says it's moving forward with putting a new missile guidance system on its westernmost island near Taiwan to strengthen deterrence.
We believe its deployments will reduce the very possibility of armed attacks against our nation and do not consider the argument that it will heighten regional tensions to be accurate.
And all of this is unfolding as President Trump and China's Xi Jinping prepare for reciprocal visits. Trump to visit Beijing in April and Xi to the U.S. later in the year. But at least for now, Japan and China are in the most serious diplomatic standoff in years. Reporting by Jack Bradley, NTD News.
The U.S. recently joined several other nations to push for an end to human rights violations in China. Just days later, pro-CCP groups harassed peaceful protesters in Australia. NTD's Melina Weiskup has more.
The United States has joined a group of 14 other countries, including Australia, Japan, the United Kingdom, and a few others, in signing a statement to the UN calling for the immediate release of people who the Chinese Communist Party has illegally detained for exercising their fundamental freedom of faith. In the statement, the countries raised concerns that ethnic and religious minority groups, particularly Uyghurs, Christians, Tibetans, Falun Gong practitioners, and others, have faced targeted repression, including through separation of children from their families, torture, and the destruction of cultural heritage. The countries are pressing the United Nations to hold the Chinese Communist Party accountable in a meaningful way to combat this human rights issue. It comes just 1 week after the CCP illegally arrested nearly 20 leaders of Zion Church. That's one of the largest underground Christian churches inside of China. One of those leaders, Urza Jin, who's the founder of Zion Church, his daughter testified to lawmakers on Capitol Hill last week. She's urging U.S. leaders to do more to get prisoners of conscience like her father freed.
I'm sometimes indeed fearful. After all, I know that I seek to expose and hold account the second most powerful country in the world. Yet as a Christian, I believe that we are asked to take courage and speak truth, and that God who created heaven and earth will stand by our side.
This comes as a top Chinese Communist Party leader, Alleges, is visiting Australia right now. Zhao was the subject of a push for sanctions here in the U.S. last month due to human rights issues. Because of his high rank, he plays a lead role in the persecution of Falun Gong, a meditation discipline centered on aligning oneself with truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. Amid Zhao's visit to Australia, a group of Falun Gong practitioners in the country peacefully protested, trying to call attention to the widespread persecution that he's engaged with, including forcibly removing organs from prisoners of conscience. While those protesters were holding banners shedding light on this issue, some members from a pro-CCP group by the name of Fuqing Association tried to block these banners from being seen and harassed protesters. One of the protesters, Sao Juxing, had his shirt ripped open by one of the members from the pro-CCP group. Another protester was hit in the head with the flagpole. This isn't a one-off incident happening in Australia. Anywhere Falun Gong has a presence, which is throughout much of the world, there are pro-CCP groups directed to harass and threaten them to try to export the CCP's persecution of the practice outside of its own borders. This was also a key focus in last week's hearing on Capitol Hill. Lawmakers and U.S. leaders are actively working to expose and stop the CCP's transnational oppression here in the U.S. and abroad. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
Coming up, the FBI has requested interviews with the 6 Democrats who posted a video telling military service members to defy illegal orders. The lawmakers say they won't be intimidated. The man is charged for allegedly making threats of violence towards ICE agents and their families while in front of the ICE facility in Portland. Jason Blair reports. And 20 U.S. states are challenging new requirements for housing grants. At the same time, the Trump administration is shifting its focus to transitional housing and preconditions for assistance. David Lamb has more on that after the break. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. The FBI has requested interviews with the 6 Democrat lawmakers who posted a video telling military service members to defy illegal orders. The Bureau's request comes a day after the Pentagon threatened to recall Navy veteran and Arizona Senator Mark Kelly. The other Democrats who appeared in the video released last week include Representatives Jason Crow, Maggie Goodlander, Chris DeLuzio, and Chrissy Houlihan. All are military veterans. Former CIA officer Senator Elisa Slotkin participated in last week's video as well. The lawmakers responded to the FBI request in a joint statement. The Post read in part, quote, President Trump is using the FBI as a tool to intimidate and harass members of Congress. Their statement continued, quote, no amount of intimidation or harassment will ever stop us from doing our jobs and honoring our Constitution. President Trump has accused the lawmakers of sedition. An ICE protester is charged for allegedly making threats of violence toward federal officers in Portland. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem gives stats on the number of assaults on ICE agents since January. NTD correspondent Jason Blair reports.
A man who was frequently seen protesting outside of the ICE facility in Portland, Oregon, is accused of making threats toward federal agents, both in person and online. FBI Director Kash Patel states the FBI arrested a violent protester out of Portland who allegedly threatened to murder officers and assault their families. According to a federal affidavit, the suspect, John Cupp, has also posted TikTok videos calling for the eradication of Jewish people and denying the Holocaust. He first appeared in court on Monday. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says that there has been 238 assaults on ICE agents between January 21st and November 21st. She says that's an increase of 1,153% from the same time last year. Noem posts on X, over the past 10 months, Democrat politicians have compared ICE to Nazis, the Gestapo, and slave patrols. President Trump and I will always stand with the men and women of ICE who risk their lives every day to arrest the worst of the worst. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons says along with immigration enforcement, ICE also does a lot of counterterrorism work. While on the Ruthless podcast, he expressed one of his biggest concerns from the record amount of illegal border crossings that happened in fiscal year 2023.
That's the key thing. That's my biggest fear too, is out of all these, especially these military age males we let in,
who do we really let in?
Yeah. Lyons also says the DHS has a lot of people in immigration detention centers because the Trump administration made it a priority to end, quote, catch and release.
Well, we're not going to just arrest someone to give you a chance to go out and do something again once we finally figure out, hey, you're a known suspected terrorist. We're keeping everybody in custody now.
Jason Blair, NTD News.
A group of mostly Democrat-led states has filed a complaint against the Department of Housing and Urban Development. This comes as HUD is overhauling its grant programs that fight homelessness. NTD's David Lamb reports.
20 U.S. states and the District of Columbia are suing the Trump administration over restrictions on funding for housing grants. They say the Department of Housing and Urban Development's restrictions on more than $3 billion in grant funds are unlawfully targeting the LGBTQ community. The complaint says the new restrictions require providers to recognize only 2 genders, mandate that residents accept services like job training or substance abuse treatment as a precondition to obtain housing, and punish providers in localities that do not enforce strict anti-homeless laws. The Trump administration has criticized the Housing First approach, which focuses on putting people in permanent housing without sobriety or work requirements. In a post on Tuesday, HUD Secretary Scott Turner indicated the administration's new changes are actually putting an additional $300 million into record funding and reallocating more funds to support services. The lawsuit is led by Washington State, New York, and Rhode Island. Attorneys general from other states and several governors also joined the coalition. The lawsuit seeks to block the HUD from placing new conditions on the grants and claims more than 170,000 people could lose their housing. HUD says it's overhauling the grants program to focus on transitional housing initiatives. David Lamb, NTD News.
Coming up, it's been 236 years since President George Washington's first Thanksgiving proclamation, declaring November 26, 1789 as a national holiday to give thanks for the creation of the Constitution and to honor religious and civil liberty. How does that message live on today? Navy SEAL veteran Mike Sorelli joins us to discuss. And with Congresswoman Elise Stefanik running for New York governor and leaving her congressional seat open, Sticker Mule CEO Anthony Constantino officially launches his campaign for New York's 21st district. Chris Bob reports when we come back. Welcome back. I'm Judy Meyer. It has been 236 years since President George Washington's first national Thanksgiving proclamation. It was a request from Congress for Washington to designate November 26, 1789 as a national day of thanks and prayer to honor religious and civil liberty. During today's turkey pardoning ceremony, President Trump carried on that spirit, urging Americans to use Thanksgiving as an opportunity to spend time with family and friends and renew their faith in God. Joining us now to discuss is U.S. Navy SEAL veteran Mike Sorelli. He's currently the Chief Talent Officer at Overwatch Mission Critical. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Now, as a veteran and a leading leadership coach, why do you think President George Washington's proclamation still matters in America today?
Well, Tiffany, I want to go back in time. 1789, the Constitution has been ratified. It's a young country, and I'm sure democracy was a lot more fragile at that point. And take into account that during the Revolutionary War, those fighting for it never gained more than 45% support from the colonists. So that means 55% of the colonists were either in support of British or just didn't want to be involved and take a side. So, we've got to put ourselves in George Washington's state of mind, where he's trying to create this sense of shared purpose and unity. And that's why he signed this proclamation for Thanksgiving, the 26th day of November, for friends and families, for communities to come together and give thanks for our freedoms in this grand experiment we call America. And that's why it's relevant today, because we are a house divided. And I think for a lot of people that have been on this earth long enough and in the United States, they've never seen our country this divisive. And this is the time for shared purpose and unity, to be thankful for those who gave their lives, for those who built this nation, and remind one another that our covenant to them is to keep building it in the direction and the trajectory that they foresaw into the future.
Now, Washington emphasized that our national government must remain wise, just, and constitutional. From your perspective, why are those values especially important for Americans to revisit right now?
Wise, just, and constitutional. And I think what he's speaking about is governance through virtue. And government must be accountable. It must be responsible. It must remain with the decrees that the Constitution set forth. And one of the things that we lose sight about is if you read those founding documents, God is mentioned throughout them. This country was founded on Judeo-Christian values, and we have strayed arguably from those, and we need to return to them. And you see that right now. We talk about sovereignty. Sovereignty requires borders, and borders require enforcement. We need to protect our nation. We need to govern justly and with virtue and with integrity and character. And arguably, I think if you ask a lot of Americans right now if they trust government, the answer is no. And that is the challenge that lays ahead of us. How do we get back to restoring the trust of the people in government? And that is why these periods like Thanksgiving come together, and finding what connects us, and the fact that we live in the greatest country in the world. Yeah, we've got problems, but even if you multiply those problems by 5, we are still the best nation in the world. And we've got to stop focusing on everything that is so wrong and the things that unite us. And days like that remind us of that.
And Mike, you often talk about service and character. How can families today, especially parents raising young people, use Thanksgiving as a moment to teach gratitude, resilience, and appreciation for freedom?
Yeah, especially in a culture where I can define it by selfishness and entitlement. We lose sight of all the people that have bled either defending this nation, bled building it. And we need to remind them that the fact that you sit in an air-conditioned space, that you have modern plumbing and connectivity and electricity is because somebody in the trades built those homes, that somebody invented that. And we have been one of the most innovative countries from which everyone relies on our technology. That is the advancement. That is the contribution every generation of Americans have made. And we've got to remind our youth, we've got to teach them civics, a subject that is arguably declined within our educational system. We have to remind them of the history. And when people have a better understanding of our history, a better appreciation for all the long line of Americans since 1776 that have defended our nation, that have built our nation, they realize and they sort of create that covenant I spoke about earlier, that, hey, they've passed that legacy on to us, and it is up to us to continue to pass that legacy on to the next generation, making America a better place than what we were born into.
And expanding on that, Thanksgiving was created as a unifying national moment. How can Americans today practice unity and gratitude, even when the country feels divided?
Yeah, I think rule number 1 is don't talk politics across the Thanksgiving table. There's no surefire way to piss people off. If you have differing political opinions, just agree to disagree. Talk about one another. Talk about what's going on in their lives. Hear stories. Tell stories about gratitude or something that you appreciate in someone else. And focus on the things that are truly important, not the politics, but one another. Personal relationships, community, family, Judeo-Christian values. Those are the things that we need to remind people about. And also take part in your communities. You know, we can sit and watch the news and complain all day long about all the things that are wrong with this country. But you know what? That just makes you part of the problem, that you're not actually getting involved to make your community, your town, your state, the entire nation better. And so we need to remind people that not only is it your obligation to vote, but it's also to get involved and make this place better than we found it.
Human connection, very important for sure. Mike Cirilli, as always, thank you so much for joining us.
Happy Thanksgiving.
There's a newcomer running for the House seat soon to be left open by Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who is running for New York governor. Sticker Mule CEO Anthony Constantino made headlines during the last presidential election when he erected a massive illuminated Vote for Trump sign atop his Amsterdam, New York factory. Now at the same site and in front of a wall of Thanksgiving turkeys, he has launched his Congressional campaign. NTD's Chris Bob has more.
I'm in Amsterdam, New York, where Anthony Constantino, the CEO of Sticker Mule, just announced that he is running to succeed Elise Stefanik in New York's 21st District.
I am here to ask for your support, your family's support, and the support of, well, pretty much everyone else you know, as I've officially decided to run for Congress.
On this cold day after hours in upstate New York, Anthony Constantino gave away a number of hoodies as well as 2,000 turkeys as we get close to Thanksgiving.
Others gave up on New York. I stayed and built my business here to protect my community and my friends from the horror of economic decline.
Stefanik has represented this New York district since 2014, winning her 2024 re-election with 62% to 38%, making it safely Republican. So far, Constantino is running against Republican New York Assemblyman Robert Smullen. Both candidates are competing to position themselves as President Trump's preferred choice. At his campaign announcement last week, Smullen highlighted his experience working in Washington. He declared he is the, quote, only Trump-appointed conservative in this race. Meanwhile, Constantino says he is the only candidate loyal to President Trump who can use his business experience to promote the district.
I think the biggest thing I can do is get us top of mind. You know, that's an easy one. I think I'm more positioned to do it than anyone. We got to be top of mind so people even know we exist. Where, you know, President Trump talks about the forgotten people. We're sort of the forgotten district, and we got to be top of mind so people think about coming here and they see positive things are going. And I'm trying my best to lead by example. President Trump can't fix the country on his own. I can't fix NY21 on my own, but I think I'm more equipped than anyone to inspire other people to get involved and help, and that's the ultimate way to do things. The most exciting thing we can do to send shockwaves through the country is to turn New York red and show people that we're going to go in a different direction, that we're going to work on cutting costs, cutting taxes, cutting regulations, which is going to make people want to come back here and going to make us exciting again.
To watch the full interview, you can go to ntd.com. From Amsterdam, New York, for NTD News, I'm Chris Bob.
Coming up, millions of Americans are hitting the roads and airports this week for Thanksgiving. Christina Corona tells us what to expect as the holiday travel rush begins. And in college basketball, 13 ranked teams are in action today, looking to become number one. Dave Martin joins us with the latest scores when we return. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. The Thanksgiving travel rush is expected to be the busiest in years, with millions of Americans hitting the roads and skies to celebrate. Airports and highways are preparing for record numbers, and travelers are being urged to plan ahead. NTD's Christina Corona tells us more.
We're here at LAX, where experts predict a record-breaking Thanksgiving travel rush. According to AAA, 88 million Americans will be traveling this holiday season, with 8 million traveling by air. At LAX, officials are preparing for nearly 2.5 million passengers between November 20th and December 1st. We asked travelers how their experiences have been so far.
Yeah, it was pretty crowded, right? Yeah.
From what I saw, the traffic wasn't too bad when I entered in.
And nationwide, the FAA says this will be the busiest Thanksgiving travel period in 15 years, with more than 52,000 flights expected on Tuesday alone. Travelers told us their holiday plans.
I'm going back to the Bay Area.
We're just gonna go sightseeing at Hollywood. Yeah.
We don't really celebrate Thanksgiving in Japan, so I'm just gonna, enjoy sightseeing, traveling here. I'm expecting to go to Dodger Stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to see
Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, Shohei Ohtani.
He's the greatest Japanese ever.
Sunday, November 30th is projected to be the airport's busiest day, with more than 230,000 travelers passing through. Recently, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy urged travelers to dress with some respect while flying, part of his effort to promote civility on airplanes.
I would encourage people to maybe dress a little better, which encourages us to maybe behave a little better. Let's try not to wear slippers and pajamas as we come to the airport. I think that's positive.
Travelers shared their thoughts on the new civility campaign.
If it's just the bare minimum of closed toes and having a shirt on, I think that's fine. I don't think that they'll stop you for having just pajamas on, but I think that if you're closed toes and you're dressed appropriately, you'll be fine.
I like wearing pajamas or comfortable things when getting on planes.
Everyone should be comfortable coming to the airport and boarding airplanes.
So far, there have been few flight delays at LAX, and travelers tell me they haven't noticed any disruptions related to the government shutdown.
Officials say this Tuesday and Wednesday are expected to be the busiest days at the airport. So if you're hitting the road or to the airport, be sure to plan ahead and stay safe. Reporting from the city of Los Angeles, Christina Corona, NTD News.
And now for your sports news, we're joined by NTD's Dave Martin. Dave, plenty going on right now, but let's start in baseball. As newly crowned Cy Young winner Paul Skenes got a record amount from the pre-arbitration bonus pool. How does this bonus pool work?
Let me explain. It's a good question, Tiff. Now, just to start, your first 3 years in Major League Baseball, salary-wise, are known as your pre-arbitration years. Now, players typically make between $500,000 and $1 million per season, which in Major League Baseball is actually well below average. Now, after that, your next 3 years are your arbitration years, where you can negotiate salary figures with your team. Players typically make, millions and even tens of millions for the best of them during those years. Then you're eligible for free agency unless you already signed a long-term deal. But sometimes, players are at their best in their 20s, which is typically your pre-arbitration years. So to solve the salary gap there, the Owners and Players Union agreed to a $50 million bonus pool to be split among all pre-arbitration players based on performance. Now, for instance, Skenes got a $2.5 million bonus from that pool for winning the Cy Young this year. Now, there's bonuses for MVP and finishing in the top 5 in these awards, for Rookie of the Year as well. Now, overall, Skenes got nearly $3.5 million from the bonus pool. That's the most ever given out to one single player. Of course, Skenes is pretty special, though. So soon, I think Skenes will be making $40 to $50 million a year, probably in free agency. So this is just a taste of what he's going to get down the line. But they try to make up for he only made $950,000 this year by giving him $3.5 million since he was so good.
A lot of zeros.
Yeah, a lot of zeros, too.
All right, well, elsewhere in the game, a Japanese star pitcher, Tatsuya Imai, who's become a Major League Baseball free agent, might not be looking to follow in the footsteps of his fellow Japanese stars who seem to sign with the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think it was widely assumed that when another Japanese star coming to the major leagues, he'd probably just sign with LA. They've already got Japan's biggest stars each of the last 2 off seasons already. That's Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Roki Sasaki. Not to mention Shohei Ohtani came over from the Angels, originally came from Japan too. So I think it was assumed that when Imai posted, he would want to head to LA as well. Now, but Imai does not sound like he's heading there. Now, he was asked about coming to the Dodgers on a recent podcast. He said he'd surely enjoy playing with those fellow Japanese stars there in LA. But then he said, quote, "But winning against a team like that and becoming a world champion would be the most valuable thing in my life. If anything, I'd rather take them down," end quote. So he has until January 2nd to sign with a new team here. So maybe he signs with the Royals, or maybe with your new team, favorite team, Tiff, whoever that might be.
Some rivals here.
Yeah, exactly. Someone's going to be ponying up a lot of money from, I'm sure, that soon.
All right, well, shifting gears to the NFL, former quarterbacks Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers are among 26 semifinalists for the Hall of Fame. When will they make the final decision?
Yeah, that's going to be in February, just ahead of Super Bowl 60, which is on February 8th. First, they have to trim the list down to 15 finalists. That'll be happening later this year. Now, Brees should be a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. He's second all-time in passing yards and touchdown passes. He finished second in the MVP voting 4 different times. He led the Saints to a Super Bowl. Now, Rivers not far behind. He's 7th in passing yards in his career, 6th in touchdown passes while making 8 Pro Bowls. Now, also eligible for the first time, former receiver Larry Fitzgerald. He's second all-time in catches and receiving yards, trailing only the great Jerry Rice in both categories. Also appearing for the first time, 11-time Pro Bowl tight end Jason Witten and running back Frank Gore, who finished his career 3rd all-time with exactly 16,000 career rushing yards. So I think all 5 have a very good shot there, Tiff. If only I got to vote.
Some exciting news to watch for then. Looking at college basketball action today, though, we have a number of ranked teams playing or already played.
Yeah, we've got several tournaments going on during this Thanksgiving week. Now, already 15th ranked Iowa State beat Creighton this afternoon 78-60 at the Players Era Festival in Las Vegas. Now, the Cyclones beat 14th ranked St. John's last night, so they are 6-0 right now. And 11th ranked Michigan State beat East Carolina 89-56 at the Fort Myers tip-off. Spartans are 6-0. They next play North Carolina on Thanksgiving Day. And finally, at the Maui Invitational, 23rd ranked NC State beat Boise State 81-70. This after falling to Seton Hall yesterday. Now, just ended at the Players Era Festival, 14th ranked St. John's beat Baylor 96-81. Right now, going on 17th ranked Tennessee is playing at number 3 Houston. And the aforementioned North Carolina Tar Heels are playing St. Bonaventure at the Fort Myers tip-off. Then tonight, 7th-ranked Michigan plays number 21 Auburn at 8:30 Eastern Time. An hour after that, 12th-ranked Gonzaga plays Maryland. And then at midnight, 8th-ranked Alabama plays UNLV. All 3 games are in Las Vegas again. Now, if that's not enough, and it really should be, right, Tiff? That's a lot of games there already. 15th-ranked UCLA plays Cal at 10 p.m. And finally, 25th-ranked Indiana hosts Kansas State in Bloomington at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm exhausted just talking about all these games. It's going to be a long night in front of the TV for me, I can tell you that.
You're going to have a lot of updates for us tomorrow.
I am.
Well, Davis Oz, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Tiff.
And that's all for today's news. For on-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Good night.